to another video. I'm Charlie, and today we are going to be doing a review and demo on Big Mess of Wires Floppy EMU device. This is the revision B model, and this is version 1.5 of the revision B. And basically, this is essentially a Macintosh floppy disk drive or Macintosh hard drive that you can connect to your vintage Macs, and you can load software onto it. So I'm going to tell you how this works. So basically, what this thing essentially is what you do. So anybody who's collected vintage Macs has come into the problem, especially with these things, or collects any old Apple computer, has come to the problem of either hard drives or floppy drives not working on their old computers. And one of the problems with this is because these are old systems and you have to expect that sort of stuff. And the problem with it is it's really hard to actually use them. So picture this. You just decide that you wanted to start a new hobby of collecting vintage Macs. So you scour eBay and you find one that looks perfect. It finally arrives and you check it out and you realize you need system disks or some sort of hard drive replacement. And after later research, you realize that this Mac has a broken hard drive, so you won't be able to boot it up without a floppy disk, but you do not either have floppy disks or you don't have a working floppy disk drive. Now, the problem with this is that it can be very expensive to buy and replace parts or even repair parts themselves. So it's time-consuming, costly, and very inefficient. But since then, there has been a new device, and this is known as the Floppy Emulator device from Big Mess of Wires. Basically what this is, it's essentially a hard disk drive or floppy drive for any old Apple computer under the iMac G3. And it sounds really cool, and it actually is. So this works with the Apple II systems all the way to the 2GS. It also works with the Apple Lisa systems, if anybody has any, which I seriously doubt you do. And it even works with the Macintosh series, all the way from the original ones to the Macintosh 2, and even the Power Macintosh series. So this will literally work with any vintage Mac under the G3 that has a floppy drive or requires a floppy drive. So yeah, that's essentially what this thing is. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate it in a few different ways, and I have finally got this thing working. It took a while, but I will explain how it works, and I will demonstrate it with a few different computers, and then yeah, we'll end the video. So let's get started. So let's start with an overview of this thing. So this is the device itself. Now, it comes with a bunch of other things, and also it comes with optional things that you don't have to buy. For example, one of those things is this frosted acrylic case. Now, you have to build it yourself, and it took a while to build, but when it was finally built, it's actually pretty cool. It's got these working buttons in here, and it's pretty cool. There's a cutout for the screen. So this thing comes with a very small, probably like 1 or 2 inch backlit monochrome screen, so there are no colors, and it is backlit. And one of the ways to get software onto this is with this. There's a micro SD card slot. So basically, essentially, what you can do is you could put it in this very fancy, custom Big Mess of Wires SD card adapter, and you could just put it in your new computer, and you could essentially just drag and drop files onto this. And then just put it on your old Mac. So the way this works is basically what happens is, so you have this SD card, this is a 8 gigabyte, I believe, and 8 gigabytes may not seem like a lot for a computer, but for a computer that has 20 megabytes of storage, 8 gigabytes is a hell of a lot of storage, especially for one of these things. So this is pretty good. So you can put quite a lot of old software onto this thing. It does come preloaded, which is pretty good, but I will have to tell you that you will need to install a firmware update and Macintosh compatible software onto it for it to be completely compatible with Mac software. It comes preloaded with Apple II, Lisa, and Mac disks. And basically what happens is, so the SD card goes into here, goes through this thing, the screen tells you what's going on, and it comes out through this floppy ribbon cable, and it's a really long cable so that you can bring it from the back to the front of the computer, because the connection is on the back, and it takes you to this. So this is another thing that comes with the floppy EMU. It's this device that allows you to connect to the floppy EMU to the back of your vintage Mac through the floppy disk drive port. So that's pretty cool, and probably one of the best parts about this is you can actually remove this, and you could actually connect this internally to the computer. So if it doesn't have one of these, you could always just connect it to this, which is really cool. So yeah, that's the overview of this thing, and this is powered by the computer itself, so you don't have to worry about getting batteries or anything. It is kind of annoying to some people, but in the end, it's actually pretty cool that you don't have to buy batteries or anything for this thing. So let's actually get to the demonstrations. So first up, we're going to start off with this Macintosh Plus. So Macintosh Plus was like maybe the third Mac ever made, and this is actually a pretty common computer amongst collectors, and probably one of the biggest problems or flaws with this computer is that it does not come with an internal hard drive, and it only comes with an internal floppy disk drive, which sounds good, but most of the time these things fail over time because of how old it is, and for some people it is unrepairable if you do not know too much about it. And for anybody who just wants to play games on this thing, which isn't really recommended because this isn't the ideal gaming machine, you could find lots other alternatives than this thing, but for anyone who just wants to use it because of the software, or maybe just because of the nostalgic purposes, this isn't such a great thing, mainly because it doesn't have an internal hard drive, and also getting software onto these things are a pain, especially if you do not have a working floppy disk drive. But that's where this thing comes in. This thing makes it a whole lot easier. So basically what I've done is I've connected it to the back through the external disk drive port, and yeah, so I actually do not have a keyboard and mouse for this, but we're just going to turn this thing on, and I'm going to demonstrate these system disks, because you can actually boot a vintage Mac off this floppy EMU device, which is pretty cool. So yeah, let's turn the thing on. Alright, computer's on, and the floppy EMU is on. It does also have an activity light and a power light. This tells you that the thing is powered on, and this tells you that the activity, sort of like a hard drive light does. So as you can see, the thing seems to be turning on. And yeah, we're just gonna wanna zoom in a bit. And yeah, it should be loading up very soon. And there you go. So this is probably one of the biggest problem with vintage Macs. 90% of the time, if you're gonna get a really old one like this, you're gonna come into something like this. Unless it's had like a fancy hard drive upgrade, which is very rare, so you're never gonna come across one of those. But if you want an older computer like this, you're always going to run into this. So you could technically get a system disk and plop it in a thing and be done with it, but the problem is with the system disks is that they're not exactly very reliable, and also another problem is that it's still hard to get software onto this, and that's where this comes in, as I said again. So basically what we can do now is we could just peruse the lovely amount of software on here. So you can navigate using these two buttons, and you can select using the middle button. So we're going to go to System Disks, and we're going to choose a system disk. So let's do System 2.0. And we're going to press it, and it works. And it is actually booting without the need of a floppy disk drive, a floppy disk. And look at that, it's booted up and working perfectly. And from now, you could probably just navigate the whole thing yourself. But unfortunately, I do not have a keyboard and mouse for this thing. But if you do have a keyboard and mouse that you could maybe give me for my collection, that'd be much appreciated. And there is a donation link in the description below if you wish to donate anything for my growing collection. So yeah, as you can see, this works perfectly fine. Theoretically, you could load more things onto this. by ejecting the system disk, but then again there's also disk swapping, which I could imagine on this is a nightmare, especially with navigating menus. So this isn't really the ideal Mac just in general. For collectors purposes, it's a pretty cool computer, but if you just want something good, I recommend a Macintosh SE with a hard drive, a lot like this one, which is where we will be going next. Right, guys, so now we have my Macintosh SE all ready to go. It's time to demonstrate with this thing. So the Macintosh SE, in a nutshell, is probably the ideal vintage Mac for any Apple enthusiast or vintage computer enthusiast, or anyone who just wants one of these for nostalgic purposes, mainly because they're common enough to find on eBay. They're modern enough to find for a cheap price at maybe $99 to $150 with peripherals, and it's modern enough to also have an internal hard drive, and it's old enough to be considered vintage. So it's kind of the ideal vintage Mac. It has an expansion slot on the back for one item that you want to put in here, like an Ethernet card if you're ever going to use it for anything like that. And yeah, it's just a pretty cool computer. But probably one of the biggest problems with it is, as I said before, the failing hard drives and the failing floppy drives. In fact, this one doesn't even have a floppy drive because I took it out because it wasn't working, and I tried to fix it to no avail. And there are just some floppy drives that will never work ever again. Sort of like this one, but the hard drive does work in this. So I'm going to demonstrate loading software onto this with a working hard drive. So it may be hard to some people if you don't have an external drive. So we're going to be loading software on it through the Floppy EMU by turning it on. So let's boot it up. And once again, it is powered by the Floppy EMU device itself. I mean by the Mac. And yeah, just simply, you don't really need to power it in any other way. I mean, it doesn't require any other power. It's very simple. You don't have to charge it. You don't have to do anything. So it makes it really easy to use. So yeah, so we're just gonna wait for this thing to boot up, and then I'll demonstrate some stuff to you. Alright guys, so now that we have the thing booted up, it is time to demonstrate. So once again, we have our Floppy EMU device, and we can just scroll down to Macintosh disks. So there are apps like word processing apps, other different apps sort of like that, creative apps, Photoshop apps, like literally just regular apps that you'd find on a computer. There are also blanks, which is, this thing also supports read and write. So you can, basically what you can do is you can write files onto the Floppy EMU, and the Floppy EMU can write files onto a Macintosh system hard drive, or even a system disk, which is pretty cool, or just a regular floppy disk. There's also games and system disks. So games is pretty self-explanatory, and system disks is basically disks to boot up your system with. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to go to some apps first. So there are some basic disks, Fetch, HyperCard, KidPix, MacDraw, Mac Terminal, MacWrite, Microsoft Word, Print Shop Deluxe, Pyro Screensavers, and Red Rider. So I think what we're going to be doing is we're going to go to MacWrite. This is thankfully a 400K disk format. So yeah, and there you go. It just showed up. So we're going to check this out. So if we just wanted to open this up, and yeah, we have MacWrite. And what's cool is that you can actually boot the computer from this chosen disk because it has these, because it has a finder, so it will actually boot up a computer with it if you just put the disk in. So that's pretty cool. So forget what I said about disk swapping. If I actually wanted to put this in the Macintosh Plus, I could theoretically put this MacWrite disk in, and it would boot from it. But yeah, now we have MacWrite. So yeah, now we have MacWrite, and we can write whatever we want. So yeah, that's MacWrite for you guys. So is there anything interesting we can do with this? Not really. This is just your standard word processor. Not interesting whatsoever. Historical purposes, the story about MacWrite is actually pretty fascinating, but if just in general, the application itself isn't that interesting. So yeah, we're just gonna eject that. Let's try a few other things, because I do know that there's a lot of other cool software on here. So, to be honest, there isn't really too much in the apps. So we're gonna go to the games, because that's what everybody cares about. Because that's probably one of the only reasons why these old computers are still relevant today. So let's see what we got. We got Crystal Quest. We could try that. That's 1.4 megabytes, so that won't work, unfortunately, so we have to eject that. That only works with the newer ones. I should have maybe brought out the Mac Classic instead. Let's try Dark Castle. Yeah, that works. So as you can see, Dark Castle has loaded up. And I haven't actually tried this yet, and again, you have the Finder and the system, so you can boot this thing from it. And yeah, so let's load this thing up and play for a bit. So one of the cool things about the Floppy EMU is that it isn't too expensive. The price of this is kind of equivalent to buying a vintage Mac. It's $150, which is a bit expensive, but that's about as much as a vintage Mac is worth, especially this SE. It's probably the right amount that you would probably sell this sort of computer for, but I don't know. I mean, some people, it might be a bit expensive, but for all the possibilities, it's pretty cool. And for some reason, it doesn't seem to be working. So, I don't know. Some of the software doesn't work. I don't know why it's even on here in the first place. It just comes with some software, and most of the stuff doesn't. Some of the stuff doesn't work. Defender of the something. Let's see what this is. Fender of the Crown? Okay, that sounds interesting. Okay, it just looks like an application, nothing else. So I guess you can't boot from this one, like the other ones. So yeah, let's see what's on here. It's gonna load, and it looks like it's gonna load. Fender of the Crown, that looks cool. Look at those top-of-the-line graphics. Wow, that's some really top-of-the-line music right there, everyone. That's like the Sound Blaster something. It's like a really expensive. No, but in all serious, I kind of want to turn the volume down. I don't even know what's happening. Okay, who are these people? Do I just choose a guy? I sort of like this guy's beard and mustache combination, so I'm gonna choose this guy. Okay. I guess this is like a roleplay game or something. Seek Conquest. That sounds fun. Move army. To here, I guess. Or no, here. We want to conquer! Yes. Now we have conquered. Oh, shoot. Oof. They've conquered 2 places? No fair. I want to conquer. That's hard. Don't conquer us, please. Okay. Not really sure what's happening. Alright, now we gotta, like, conquer all these people. Ignore her cries, because who cares? Seek conquest. Move army to here. And to here. Because we need a castle. Ferocious attack. Let's do that. That sounds fun. Fight, my men. Fight. I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. Oh, we're winning. Come on, kill them. Yes, we're winning. Look at this. Their numbers is going down. Are we winning yet? Uh-oh, I think we're dying, actually. No, we need better. Come on. No, it's going to be a close one, people. We need to see quickly. Hopefully they die and we don't. Oh, shoot. I think it's like, I think there are going to be like 2 people left from each army, and then they're both going to kill each other at the same time. Uh-oh, I think we might actually lose. Okay, this was a bad idea. Alright, let's eject disk now. Kind of want to eject the disk now. I'm getting bored. Okay. I would like to eject. Command Q, Command Q. The other army's taken over, so who cares? I don't really want to play anymore. Okay, I reset the floppy EMU, so it's kind of impossible that this thing is still going. Yeah, I want to end. I don't want to play this anymore. Okay, we lost to the polka dot people. Well, they're actually all polka dot people because basically just little black dots. Okay, please let me out. I really want to stop. Oh, quit and save. Quit. Perfect. Okay, now that we will... No, I do not want to play again. That was boring. Well, some other people might think it's interesting, but not me personally. So, yeah, that's over. So, yeah. Let's see what else we got on the floppy EMU. So, we'll go back to games. What do we got? Let's try Flight Simulator. That sounds fun. Yes, it works. Microsoft Flight Simulator. Flight Sim Backup? Is this even an actual copy of Flight Simulator? Okay. I don't even think this works, so... Load to... Okay. I feel like I did something that I wasn't supposed to do, but oh well. If this breaks my computer, then I could always contact the person. I could always contact Big Mess of Wires and file a lawsuit against them. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. Okay, this disc also does not work. There are things that do not work. Reset the thing. I do not want to play Flight Simulator anymore. So, yes, we will just continue with life. So, while this thing boots up, I'm going to check out some interesting discs on here. So, let's see. Games. What's columns? That sounds interesting. It doesn't work on this. So, let's try a different disc. Okay, let's see, we got, Macman, Maze Wars, Missile Command, ooh, let's try Origin Trail. Ah, damn, it doesn't work. Okay, I'm getting kind of sick of having to reset this thing all the time, so, oh well. Ugh, okay, let's see, I want to try to find something that's fun and will work. Ford Simulator 2, that sounds fun. Oh, it doesn't work. Sometimes it gives you this error. Disk emulation mode not supported, but if you do reset the thing and you press the middle button while it's booting, you can choose what type of default mode you want. But unfortunately, it's only a Macintosh floppy, so we have to do that. And for some reason, it won't let me play Ford Simulator, but I really want to drive an '89 Ford into a wall or something. But unfortunately, life doesn't work the way you want it sometimes. So, oof. Let's see, Shuffle Puck. That sounds fun. And it works. Delicious. I hope this isn't the weird version with those characters that look funny, but hopefully it isn't. It looks like a chocolate cake. Delicious. Because there are two versions of Shuffle Puck. There's the early version, which is just Shuffle Puck, and then there's a later version called Shuffle Puck Cafe. Oh, it's called Shuffle Puck Cafe, not Shuffle Puck. Okay, so this is just regular Shuffle Puck. So, yeah. Basically, it's self-explanatory. You're basically playing air hockey. If your cursor will move properly. But yeah, it makes noises like Shuffle Puck. Oof, and I died. Go, loser. Go, coward. Oh, oof. Damn, this mouse is the worst. Ah, this is like the world's worst mouse. Dang, this is the world's worst mouse. Okay, we can't exactly play with this horrible mouse. Well, it's not the worst mouse, it's just, it doesn't work too well, in my experiences. And that was one where it has not worked whatsoever. Most of the time it works if you're like writing an essay or something, but most of the time it doesn't. Ooh, Space Invaders, that sounds fun. Ooh, Space Invaders, let's go. Okay, let's see. Space Invaders. It just looks like Space Invaders. That's a good sign. Let's see what we got. Okay, let's start game. Run. Okay. Okay, I guess we want to open Space Invaders and Space Invaders, because why not? Okay, so Space Invaders is broken. To the person who runs Big Mess of Wires, I'd like you to take note with some of these errors that keep occurring with some of the software that you have provided, because I have found that like maybe 20% of the software that I've tried so far does not exactly work with my computer. Well, and this isn't a regular vintage Mac that should be able to run 90% of these things, and it actually froze at the error screen. So I literally have no other option other than to turn off the computer itself. So that's unfortunately what I have to do, and sometimes that can be dangerous because it can damage some of the electronics, especially the hard drive, other parts. But otherwise, I'd like you to take note of some of the problems that I'm having, because I mean, I know this might be hard. I mean, I know it's hard to build things like this, and it is a really cool device, but I know there are errors in here, and sometimes there isn't anything to do, but I'd like you to take note. So if you're ever gonna make an improved version, it'd be nice if it didn't have these types of problems, because it's basically what I'm doing is, I don't know if people would agree, but what's happening is it's sort of like I'm pointing out flaws that you can fix. For example, it's like Google's system where if there's a flaw, you send the information about that flaw to Google, or Apple's has these error messages that say this and that has quit unexpectedly, and you can say send a report to Apple so that they can hopefully fix it and it won't happen again. So take note of this and make sure that it doesn't mess up again. But if it's too hard, don't worry, it's fine. This is still a really cool device. It's a bit hard to figure out sometimes with the regular consumer. For example, I'm not too good with technology. Well, I'm not the best, but I am pretty good with it. But this thing is a bit complicating sometimes. So yeah, that's all I really have to say. So, and you have posted videos on the internet which have been very helpful, so thank you for that. But there are still things that need to be fixed, just to let you know. I think his name's Steve Chamberlain. I don't know, but I've heard about it somewhere, but I'm not too sure if it's true. But oh, there's also utilities folder. Ooh, what do we got here? After Dark. Disk copy. Hard drive SCSI setup. Wow, I didn't even know this existed. Max bug. Okay. Soundmaster. Doesn't work. Okay. I didn't even load that on. And Stuff It Expander. That's kind of useful. I'm gonna try After Dark on this because I'm probably the world's biggest fan of After Dark, and damn, it doesn't even work on this computer. How can you... that's kind of annoying. So, anyway, eject that. Let's try one more piece of software, and then I want to talk a bit more about this thing. So, let's see what we got. I'm gonna go down to the bottom and then go from the bottom up. So, Space Invaders doesn't work. Tetris Max doesn't work on this. Wizard's Fire, I don't know. Zork, what's Zork? Okay, that works. We'll try Zork, I guess. And if it doesn't work, then I'm gonna not be too happy. So, yeah, Zork, let's see. Copy of Zork III. Okay. So, it's not an official... it's a copy of it. and it's literally called copy. As in a dream, you see yourself tumbling down a great dark staircase. When have I ever had a dream about that? All about you is shadowy images of struggles against fierce opponents and diabolical traps. That sounds nice. Zork III Dungeon Master. I feel like this is gonna be one of those text games. Oh shoot, I'm trapped. What do I do? Oh god. Return. I beg your pardon. Okay. Okay, then. I don't know the word okay. If you don't know the word okay, you are not a human being, so. Yes, why? Why? I would love to leave the game. So that's interesting. It's basically one of those text types of things, but I'm not such a big fan of those, so. Yeah, we're just gonna leave it at there, and now that we're done demonstrating this thing, I'd like to talk about this thing a bit more in detail. So that was the demonstration on Big Mess of Wires Floppy Emulator. So a few things I would like to talk about. So first of all, if you have a more modern PowerPC based computer or some sort of more modern computer like a Mac Performa, Mac LC, or even something like a Mac TV or something like that, you're gonna notice that it's a bit hard to get this thing to work on it. Mostly because the more modern ones, they don't have floppy drive connectors on the back, so it's a bit hard from the start. But on some of the ones like the Pizza Box LCs, they do have a floppy drive rivet cable on the connector on the inside, which will make this work. But one of the problems is that for some of the more modern ones, specifically the all-in ones that have like the slide-out drives, they're actually a lot harder to connect this to than you might expect. But if you do get it connected, it'll be very. They're going to be very nice to. It's going to be very easy to use. But one of the problems is that it's very hard to connect them. So if you're ever going to make a revision C model, I think it'd be a good idea if you took advantage of the SCSI connector on the back. It's sort of like it's like the external hard drive connector or something like that. I don't know, but like external disk drive or something like that. But maybe you should try using that cable in the revision C model, because then it'd be easier to use it with the more modern Macs. And apparently this does work with the more modern ones, but it's just a bit hard to connect it. And I have confirmed that it does work with these, and it does. I haven't tested if it works with any of the Apple II series, but overall, this is a pretty neat little device. If you know how to use it, and you know how it works, and you don't screw everything up when you set it up and have to redo every single thing like I did, and you have the right types of computers for this, and you desperately need it. Unlike I do, I don't actually really need it that much, but if you do desperately need one of these for your vintage computer and you know how it works, I recommend picking it up. But the price is a bit expensive. Maybe take away $50 from it, and it'd be a lot nicer. It'd be a lot more affordable. But this is probably the premium version of these. There are probably more things like this out here, because this probably isn't the first time somebody's thought of something like this, but this is probably the premium best version that you can get out there. So yeah, so with that out of the way, now it's time to end the video. So that'll do it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. Please leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below what you want me to do next. And if you have any old computers like this that you wish to get rid of, donate them to my website, link in the description below. It'd be a lot better if you donated them to me than to recycle them, because preserving history is important to a lot of people, and that is exactly what I'm doing, because it'd be better than having one of these crushed or something. So that'll do it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next video.